Okay, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order then, and I'll read our little remote meeting spiel here. So the chair of the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission has found that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission and communities thereof are authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. SNHPC is utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting as follows. Online access via the Zoom web link that's been posted on the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission page. Telephone only access is dial 646-558-8656 and meeting ID 824-9840-6920. These instructions have also been provided on the SNHPC website at snhpc.org. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting, please call 603-669-4664 or email mduchesne@snhpc.org. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. So with that, if Sylvia, if you'll help me out with the roll call, and I don't know if someone would like to we can do a motion on the minutes and do the roll call and motion in the same action.
Dick, Snow, and Candy, I move to approve as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Dick and Andrew. All right, we'll do the roll call. Jillian Harris, Bedford.
Here.
Dick Snow, Candia.
Aye, and present.
Andrew Haddock, Chester.
Here and I.
Thanks, Andrew. George Sioris, Derry.
Present and approve.
Great. Bruce Thomas, Hooksett.
Yeah.
Colleen Milo in Londonderry.
Here and I on the minutes.
Kristen Clark, Manchester.
Here.
Mark Sunin, New Boston.
Here and I.
Tom Clow in where? Sorry.
I'm here and I abstain on the minutes.
Thanks, Tom. Fred Roberge, Easter Seals.
Present and yes on the minutes.
Nancy Michaels from Manchester, Londonderry, Derry Chambers.
Here and I.
Thanks, Nancy. Tim White, DES.
Present and I vote yes on the minutes.
All right, and just to recognize, we also have here today, although non-voting from Federal Highways, we have Lee Levine. And we have Dean Williams from Central Regional Planning Commission. And a lot of staff. Hi, all staff.
Thanks, Sylvia. So the first item is James with the work session on the TAP alternatives.
And I'm making you co-host, James, right now, so you'll be able to share your screen.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. All right. Can people see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Excellent. So today I am going to talk about the Transportation Alternatives Program Round 4 for fiscal year 2021-2022 project prioritization from the subcommittee that was assembled to evaluate the applications provided. The timeline for the TAP program is TAP letters of intent were received from towns by February 5th. Applications were released by New Hampshire DOT on February 11th. Applications were due March 19th. And here we are in April. Applications were checked for eligibility by Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission staff and then ranked by the TAP evaluation subcommittee. And this will be followed by what we're here to do today, which is to make a recommendation on prioritization for the projects that have been submitted to the MPO for consideration as they approve prioritization of project ranking. In May, New Hampshire DOT will score and rank the submitted applications and hand those off to the DOT commissioner. In June, the final list of TAP projects would be approved by the commissioner for award, and then in August, the governor and council will vote to approve the funding prioritization or the funding awards. I'd just like to stop and note the TAP evaluation subcommittee met on April 8th and were comprised of the following members of the TAC: Bruce Thomas from Hooksett, Colleen from Londonderry, Dick Snow from Candia, and Linda Kuhnhart from Francistown. And I just want to note in a couple more slides, I'm gonna summarize sort of pros and cons for each project. But I will keep my comments brief, and I will make room for the subcommittee members to share their thoughts. So Bruce, Colleen, Dick, Linda, if during each one you want to speak up and share your input or opinions or input about each project, feel free to do so. I I didn't I did kind of withhold the scoring until the end of the presentation. And so I assume there'll be a lot of discussion when we get to that point, but I think it would be nice if you guys have anything to say, feel free to do so. Just as a note, the full TAC may accept or modify the subcommittee's recommendations as they see fit, and the TAC recommendations for regional priorities will be considered by the MPO on April 27th. So what is that, 2 weeks from now, roughly? As a recap, you guys have seen this before. This is the evaluation criteria. It's broken down into 5 main categories: potential for success, safety, project connectivity, socioeconomic benefits, and multimodal connectivity. Each of these criteria, and there are some sub-criteria as well, each of these criteria are weighted, and the weighting corrects for the importance of the criteria as defined by the TAC and MPO in prior months leading up to this evaluation. New Hampshire DOT received applications for TAP funding from the following towns: Bedford, Derry, Manchester, New Boston, and Wyndham. You may remember from previous meetings that Goffstown was one of the towns that put in a letter of intent. Goffstown did not submit a final application to New Hampshire DOT, so they are not on this list. With that, I'm gonna give a little background on each of the individual projects before we cover scoring. And again, if any of the subcommittee members have positives or challenges they want to identify for each of these projects or any other comments, please feel free to speak up. So the first one here, Bedford, is to construct a 3,780 linear feet of sidewalk on the east side of Old Bedford Road between Route 114 and Route 101. I do have a graphic of this if anybody needs to see it, but I'm just going to go through. We did that during the last TAC meeting, but if we need it for discussion purposes, I do have the graphic showing where these things are, a map, so to speak. But I'm just going to go through the positives and challenges since we did cover that in the last TAC meeting. Positives. This application was called, the scope of this application was called out in the 2014 bike ped plan for Bedford. It's described in sort of verbatim in their plan. Improvements recommended for the area are also in the 2020 master plan. Project cost estimates provided, which was a bonus. Bedford has 100% of its local match from a recently completed nearby town development. Town DPW is committed to regular annual maintenance, so we know that Federal Highway and DOT wants to see a commitment to year-round maintenance, i.e. snow clearing, and the town is committed to that. One other positive, this was one of the safe routes to school type projects, which would connect schools with housing, medical, and other uses. And another positive we saw here was a high proportion of 17 and younger, plus a high proportion of 65 and older in the census tract population. Challenges identified here were local match funds expire in the year 2025 if not used, expended by then. Existing engineering may need to be supplemented to meet the local project administrator requirements of New Hampshire DOT in order to expend federal funds. The narrative did not discuss explicitly the drainage and curbing elements of the project scope, and there were no crash history data presented to demonstrate the need for safety improvements at this location. I'll just take a minute here, and if any of the subcommittee members have comments, feel free. All right, with that, I guess I'll go on to the next town.
Bruce, it
Seth.
looks like Bruce unmuted. Did you have a comment?
No, I thought Yosemite's pretty good.
All right, the next application is the town of Derry. Town of Derry has submitted an application to construct 1,900 linear foot extension of the Derry Rail Trail between Madden Road and the Londonderry Town Line. Positives: the trail completion of Londonderry Town Line and Derry's is cited in the Derry's 2005 recreation plan and their recently adopted town master plan. They have letters of support from town council, town administration, local economic development center, the local economic development director, the local trail alliance that coordinates with the town on maintenance and operation of the trail, and the land controlling property owner for the area that the trail would expand upon. Detailed engineering cost estimate provided by VHB to support the project budget. Staff were particularly confident in that. Match funds were identified and cited in the town's TIF district for expenditure in fiscal year 25-26. And some environmental factors existing on the project site, including crossing of a brook and some fiber optic infrastructure, were anticipated in the application and addressed. Some challenges here, and this is true for many of the towns outside of Manchester, there's limited multimodal connectivity. In Derry's case, they do have an on-demand service from CART that could bring certain populations to the site of the trail if they so desired to reach this facility. I don't know if any of the subcommittee or anybody has comments on this.
No.
All right, the next one, City of Manchester, construct a 4,800 linear foot multi-use path adjacent to Canal Street between Granite Street and Brook Street. Positives for this project were that the concepts of the multi-use path are supported in the 2021 master plan, the 2017 Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission Complete Streets Toolkit, Manchester Connects action kits, and the 2012 Regional Trails Plan. Letters of support from the Board of Aldermen, Mayor, Health Department, Planning Department, Chamber of Commerce, Manchester Connects, Queen City Bike Collective, the YMCA, and Manchester Moves, which is a nonprofit trail organization. The project fills a gap in the Granite State Rail Trail in downtown Manchester where it would otherwise be difficult to implement a trail. And the facility is in a census tract with a 29.1% poverty rate. Obviously not a positive, but a positive that a facility like this would service a census tract with a high poverty rate. Challenges: the project scope as defined in the TAP application is not in any reference to existing local or regional plans. To say the scope of work as presented is not explicitly called out in any local or regional plans. The board resolution to support the TAP application does not explicitly commit funding as of today. It supports the project, it supports the application, but it doesn't commit the funding via CIP or anything of that nature. So, in terms of some of the other projects, it had less strength. The project may have unidentified operational and transit traffic impacts, i.e. reduction in capacity of Canal Street. Any comments?
Now, James, maybe after you go through all of them, I'll give my general thoughts on all 5 of them just from my review previously.
Yeah, and feel free to do that. I'll put up at the end of the summary. I'll put up the scoring results, and so I'm sure people will want to discuss and comment there, and so you guys can interact however you like. The next one, Town of New Boston. Construct a tunnel under Parker Road to connect Phase 2 of the New Boston Rail Trail to the future Phase 3. Positives on this one were a letter of support from the Conservation Commission, Board of Selectmen, and noted public support from Community Survey, Trail Subcommittee, and volunteers. Some engineering has been completed for this project. There's demonstrated ability to locally match funds for trail improvements through fundraising. Project would eliminate steep slope grade at a road crossing of an otherwise accessible trail. And then finally, for the positives here, the project budget appears reasonable for the scope of work defined in the application. Some challenges identified: does not appear to be a specific reference to this project in the town's master plan. Uncertainty as to town warrant resolution for funding TAP project if fundraising does not meet the local match needs. And that was raises a challenge because the town of New Boston primarily cited fundraising as the source of local match. Any comments? Oh. All right. I think this is our last one here. The town of Wyndham. Improvement of Greenway Trail from Old Mill Road to I-93, and improvement of the state right-of-way, which is still the Greenway Trail. It's just on the other side of the I-93, between I-93 and North Lowell Road. And I can pull up a map if people want to see these things. Positives for this project were prior investment in trail by New Hampshire DOT at 93. They built a grade separated crossing under I-93 to allow this trail to connect to the nearby Rockingham Rail Trail, or Granite State Rail Trail, sorry. Existing agreement between the town and the state on the use of the state right of way for a trail facility. Letters of support from the Parks Department, Trail Alliance Group, Conservation Commission, local senator and representatives, and the Board of Selectmen. Projects supported in town's master plan. Project provides significant development of a phase of rail trail and connects 3 local towns. So I apologize. I don't know what I meant by that, but basically the Greenway Trail as it exists today is pretty inaccessible, and what was proposed is basically to pave this trail, which makes it highly accessible, and so that was seen as a big improvement. And the trail continues beyond the scope of work that's identified within this application. Project connects to Granite State Rail Trail, which I noted earlier. At the end of North Lowell Road is the Wyndham Depot, which is where the Granite State Rail Trail picks up. It's a mere, couple hundred feet. And again, this is another town with a high demographic proportion of 17 and younger, as well as 65 and older. Some challenges identified here. Funding appropriated to date constitutes only 12.5% of the total local funding match required for the project. Additional project budget information is not provided in the application. So some of our towns provided, an engineering budget. Didn't quite get to that level here. So with that, I present the scoring criteria and the prioritization of the 5 applications we just summarized. And so in chronological order here, Bedford ranked 5 in prioritization with a score of 5.7, a weighted score of 5.7. Derry was ranked priority number 1 with a weighted score of 8.11. Manchester was ranked priority number 2 with a weighted score of 6.95. New Boston was ranked priority number 3 with a weighted score of 6.92. And finally, Wyndham was ranked priority number 4 with a weighted score of 6.83. And so that's up on the screen. And feel free to add your input, subcommittee members, or Colleen, however.
Yeah, I'll comment just as one member of the subcommittee, just so folks know in general some of the thoughts the committee had, and I'm sure Bruce or Dick will chime in as well. Socioeconomic benefits was one we struggled with. We basically gave everybody a 5 across the board. I think for lack of better, I think we gave Manchester a higher number. We gave them a 7 because obviously Manchester has a bit more diverse community, and we recognize that would be a little bit higher individually on some of the projects. So the Bedford project, as I recall, one of the concerns was in terms of support and readiness, though we know it's a project that's well documented, has a lot of support in the bike ped master plan. The lower numbers we gave on the readiness, I think, were mostly related to the total project cost and not knowing if the actual cost was a sufficient number to accomplish the project. The connectivity on that, we recognize it was a good local connectivity project from a mixed-use development up to a school facility, but not necessarily a regional connectivity. I think our other projects were more rail trail related projects that had higher connectivity scores because of their regional connectivity. But Bedford, we recognized that, the financial readiness, that they've got the money in the bank for the project to happen. Same with Derry, that financial readiness very strong because they have the money from a TIF district sitting in the bank. They rated highly by the committee for that regional connectivity. Manchester, again, was a strong, I think the items that we recognize that were strong. The multimodal connectivity is something Manchester has that other projects did not, just, by the nature of our region. But the concern was the documented public support. I know this is a fairly new project, it seems, in Bedford. Other towns, other projects had documented support in master plans and other publicly vetted documents. So that was one concern on Manchester. New Boston, I think it seemed a good project. We would improve accessibility of a tough section of trail. The weakness there was the financial readiness. I know they have a very strong fundraising and local fundraising group, but not knowing if they would have that money in the bank to make the project actually happen and get to the finish line. Wyndham, again, similar. I think the weakness was, in my view, as one member of the committee, was the financial readiness and having that money ready to be put towards a project. And I know, we have the same here in town. It's municipalities are not just sitting on pools of money to be able to throw at transportation or rail projects. So I think that's a real challenge, and I think that's where Derry having those funds and having that regional connectivity seemed like a project that seemed highly likely to be successful. So those are just my general thoughts. Again, just one member of the committee, but if anyone has any questions about where we kind of came up with some of these ranking numbers, I think we're happy to try and answer.
I'd just like to say that we all came up with our own individual scores, and pretty much every number on this, every raw score you see here was discussed and debated and kind of agreed upon by all of the committee members. But I think we're all close at the beginning of each of the numbers. And boy, I can also tell you, James Rayo has a lot of patience. That maybe doesn't come through on most of the meetings, but boy, he did a good job moderating and keeping calm in a couple.
Thanks, Bruce.
Herding cats. I guess we were the cats, right, Bruce?
Yeah, but I definitely think the committee did a pretty good job. We ultimately all agreed on every number that was individually discussed on this whole chart. So I think it went pretty well, and I think it's a pretty fair score. Just my opinion. Thank you.
So, Colleen, other than the next slide, which says questions and solicits a motion, this is what I have for a presentation. So I hand it back to you, the chair.
Sure. So does anyone have any other questions or comments? Or I think that what James is going to be looking for is a motion, but if there is any additional discussion before someone wants to offer a motion.
Dick Snow from Candia move that we recommend.
Okay, I've got a motion from Dick. Do we have a second?
Aye. Andrew,
Andrew, thank you.
second.
Can we
Um,
discuss before we move that motion?
Yep, absolutely. So we, go right ahead, Jillian.
I just want to say that I think we disagree with some of the rankings that, especially under potential for success. For Bedford, I mean, it's designed, engineered, the drainage infrastructure is in place, the money's in the bank, and I guess we struggle to see how some of those are not 10s.
Again, I guess the concern, I think, was from my perspective only, the cost of the project. I think $500,000, I think, seemed low compared to what we have seen on some of these other projects. So that's my only take, but if other folks have comments or think that should be adjusted.
Well, I mean, the engineering is basically done, so that comes into play.
That was something the subcommittee discussed. The challenge we had there in terms of unknowns was that federal dollars in New Hampshire DOT require something called a local project administrator to implement the engineering process and the engineering plans. You guys have a local set of plans that are stamped by an engineer, which puts you ahead of the game. The challenge was we think that the New Hampshire DOT will still require those plans to be revisited by an independent consultant, and that the public participation process be vetted. And so the initial hearing, a follow-up meeting to discuss the engineering plans, and then a final meeting. We think that what part of it was that the number seemed low, given that an engineering process, an LPA process, would need to be followed regardless of the engineering that's completed ahead of time.
Okay, well, I can't speak to that, but we still feel that some of these are not really fair.
Could you be more specific, Jillian, when you say some of these? So I'm hearing on the financial end, you think this should have been a 10, I guess, project readiness. I'm just curious which ones.
I mean, yeah, particularly under potential for success. I mean, I understand that this is, you're looking at it regionally, but project connectivity and at a local level connects a lot of services, assisted living facilities to those services, and neighborhoods to a school. So, I mean, I guess you're looking at it in a different way, but to us, there's that should be higher as well.
I'm not sure about the process at this point when there's a community that's unhappy with their score and feels it should be reevaluated. I don't know that we have, I think the entire scoring and adoption, all that has to happen relatively quickly and get back to DOTs. I don't know, Nate, can you speak to the timeline?
Yeah, we are under a timeline to submit, our final regional priorities to DOT this month. It certainly, if there is a, that's what we're doing today. Obviously, hearing feedback about the draft scoring. Bedford has raised some concern about the readiness. I think I could probably speak a little bit to the concern about Bedford's budget. $10,000 for PE phase work on this project, even though a lot of the engineering work has already been done, is likely pretty light. And if got funded, and still had to follow all of the federal LPA rules, I think Bedford would be in a position pretty quickly where they find that 10,000 would not be sufficient to get the project to construction. And then there was also a concern about the actual construction phase cost of $440,000 for, I think, what is it, 3,800 linear feet of sidewalk with granite curb. The granite curb cost alone is raw cost is like $35 to $40 a foot. And so how do you, how can you construct the entire project for that amount of money following all of the federal rules and guidance? Projects with federal funding simply cost more to bring to construction than projects that are funded entirely locally. So some of the cost estimates in this budget appear to be kind of, okay, more in line with what you would expect to see if the project was entirely locally funded and didn't have to jump through all the federal hoops. $440,000 in the construction phase component of this project with granite curb and all of what Bedford has said they're going to do is really pretty aggressive and maybe unrealistically aggressive. And that's why the score came out the way it did. So, but certainly the committee is welcome. I was not a scorer on the committee. I just I'm familiar with that aspect of the discussion. So if the committee wants to, or the full TAC wants to reevaluate that assessment, they're free to do so. But that's why the score was what it was. The construction phase seemed to be pretty aggressive with granite curbing and everything else that Bedford had said that they're going to include in that project. And then in particular, the $10,000 PE phase work seemed to be unrealistic, notwithstanding the amount of background engineering work that's already been done. But to be able to bring a federally funded project to construction phase for $10,000 would be quite something.
Just to add to that, there was no real estimate included, like a construction estimate, and I suspect there would be at least some drainage work involved in relocating catch basins or adding catch basins that you usually end up having to do whenever you put in granite curbing. So that was one of the financial aspects of it, that type of information wasn't provided.
Yeah, I think so everyone, all the staff evaluated a different aspect of this to provide the committee some talking points and to provide them, our initial assessment. And I know that one of the things I reviewed was that feasibility aspect, and there was no mention about stormwater. And I know when you do add sidewalk and curbing, it does change the drainage. So because there was no conversation in the application about the drainage, that was part of the problem as well. And it'd be great if the application itself was more leading, that it did bring up a variety of other topics, and I think it's sort of left more open for the applicant to decide how much information to provide. But yeah, those are all good points. Anyone else? Any of the other communities concerned with their scoring? I know that we have Mark Sunan from New Boston and Kristen from Manchester, George from Derry. And we don't have anyone from Wyndham, but anyone else want to speak to the evaluation?
Dick Snow from Candia. If you guys take a look at the bottom line there, to get from 5.7 to over 8, it's just not going to happen. The subcommittee spent an awful lot of time discussing this. I mean, we were 3-4 hours doing this thing. I don't think you're going to get from 5.7 to better than 8. The numbers there seem realistic to me. My top choice wasn't the one they picked, but it makes sense. There's only so much money available. You only get one of them. You may not get any of them this year. So I think that the effort that was put in to come up with this sheet that you're looking at was extensive. I think it's reasonable.
Dick does bring up a really valid point that there, unfortunately, the TAP program has limited funding. We were very lucky in the last round that both Manchester and Londonderry were awarded. This go round, we don't know if we will have an award, whether it's one or none or two again. I don't know. There were several regional planning commissions that got none of their TAP programs were awarded. So there's a lot of scrutiny here, and this is also advisory. Isn't that true, Nate, that DOT will have their own review process and they will certainly look to see what we did, but they will have their own review process?
Yes, DOT has their own review process as well. It would, but the regional priorities are a component of the DOT's process. So what we're doing here, it does inform that process, but DOT has a separate and a process of their own statewide.
I suppose when we submit this to the DOT for their review, we could put in the concern of Bedford that they felt their scores for potential for success were below what they anticipated. And I suppose that could be added to the, what would that look like, Nate?
You know, really what DOT is looking for are ranked priorities. If you want to get into that level of granularity, DOT will be examining Bedford's budget as well and may have their own opinions about it. Certainly, you know, when PE phase work is you know, in that range, that either, you know, very low or zero. It's not zero in this case, but that's the type of thing that DOT will look at to make sure that they're comfortable with the budget. And, you know, we can, you know, certainly in a correspondence to DOT, discuss the thought process behind why each project was scored the way it is. We typically do that. But DOT will also be examining the budget figures and things that we've just been talking about.
Call the question, please.
Okay, being that, so I guess we'll entertain, so we have the motion, we have the second, so all those in favor, Sylvia, if you want to go through the roll call on the recommendation.
All right.
I just have a couple of comments. Can I just say a couple of things on Manchester's? You know, I understand like their rankings of the financial like readiness, like that we didn't actually have the money committed, but I know it's hard. I get that we all voted on that high percentage, but like we've done not a million, but several TAP projects, and you know, we've always gotten the funded, and our board commits to being able to support that. So while we didn't have it ready, like we know we could get it, and you know, I think that's a major element that gave us a lower score. And, you know, some like the safety, like we have 0 bike facilities out there. We have no sidewalks on one side of the road. And, you know, the speeds are 40 miles per hour. So like, you know, scoring lower than other people on improved safety, it seems like it's a substantial safety benefit by providing new facilities. So just a couple comments, but I do think some of ours are lower than they should be as well.
Okay. Well, we might as well hear from Mark. Any thoughts from Mark?
Sure. I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I am frankly surprised at how high New Boston's score was. I know I never saw the application itself, but I know the project and I know the project area. And frankly, to see a 6.5 financial readiness when it's a promise of fundraising in the future, as opposed to Wyndham that already has 12.5% of the money committed, it just seems outrageous. I would have put us at a 3 or 4 at best.
Okay.
Just to a couple of thoughts on those. I think Mark in New Boston's application, if I'm remembering it correctly, and I can pull it up, They actually said that they had already fundraised a portion of it and had a portion of it in hand.
They don't. I had a discussion with them at a selectmen's meeting a couple of weeks ago. They have commitments from people, should the project be approved, that they have committed to the funds. They don't have the money in hand. If they have indicated that, that's different than what they told the selectmen.
All right, yeah, so I'm just looking at it. To date, we have $30,000 pledged for the tunnel project. And yeah, okay, so there's the,
That's
okay,
a
so that's the
significant difference.
distinction. Yeah, I think the committee saw that and read that as that there was a commitment of $30,000 in hand and the rest needed to be fundraised or raised at a warrant. But you're saying that the 30,000 that's pledged is not necessarily as firm as it may have appeared?
I would make the argument that the pledging is, hey, yeah, if we get this this tunnel, I'll commit, $100 here, $200 there. They don't have that money in the bank. It is a promissory, not even a promissory note. It's a promise that somebody's going to pay. I think it's outrageous to say a 6.5 financial readiness when some other communities actually have the money in hand.
So that's why it got the 6.5. Again, I'm not a scorer, but I remember this part of the discussion because the committee did consider that to be some funding that is ready and available for the project. So if that's not the case, that may be something that the TAC may want to revisit that particular score.
As a scoring member of the committee, I took that to mean that they had that money in the bank. So that led to me giving that a higher financial readiness than Wyndham, which to me seemed to have a smaller percentage of the project in the bank per se. So if that is not money that is there, then that changes my scoring on that financial readiness for that particular project, certainly.
I just go back to the bottom line. You're not going to get from less than 7 to up to over 8 by some small amount that you change in those upper numbers.
Dick, I don't disagree with you. I just think that rating New Boston over Wyndham and possibly even over Bedford is highly surprising.
Maybe we need to increase the size of the subcommittees next year.
Well, and if there had been more time, because the schedule for review and approval and recommendations and criteria, all of this was very short. If we had another month, what we could do is the subcommittee could take these comments, meet again, and come back to you in next month with revised consideration here. But we don't have that luxury. And it would be wonderful for each community to be able to do a presentation, for example, on their project, so that if there were questions, there could be a full discussion on these different projects. But we only have the opportunity to go by what is in specifically the application. So that makes it very challenging for the group. And I was a fly on the wall during the discussion. And, they did work very hard at this. So I hear there's some disgruntled members. Sorry to hear that, but I think that we did the best we could with the time we had.
Sylvia, maybe next year we could get them to anybody wants to put in a tap, they come up and do presentations for either the committee, the TAC, or at the MPO thing. They do something ahead of time that says, hey, in a couple months, I'm going to think about putting this in, and here's what I'm going to do to get more input on it.
Yes, that would be ideal.
Even just a presentation to the subcommittee that's doing the scoring, because I think certainly being able to have the benefit of asking someone these questions as we're doing our ranking, rather than ranking based on just what's written in front of us. And we have questions that come up, there's no way of answering them in real time. So certainly for next year, I think a presentation by the applicant would be helpful for scoring.
Yeah, that's a good point, Colleen. All right, so there's been a motion and a second. I'm going to go through the roll call. Colleen, does that sound like a plan? I'm seeing a head
Please,
nod.
thank you.
All right, so here's your chance to say yay or nay. Bedford, Jillian Harris.
Nay.
Candia, Dick Snow.
Aye.
Chester, Andrew Haddock.
Aye.
Derry, George Sioris.
Aye.
Hooksett, Bruce Thomas.
Aye.
Londonderry, Colleen Milo.
Aye.
Manchester, Kristen Clark.
I'm gonna abstain.
New Boston, Mark Sunan.
Nay.
Ware, Tom Clow.
Yes.
Fred Roberge, Easter Seals.
Yes.
Nancy Michaels from the Chambers.
Yes.
And Tim White from DES.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Colleen.
All right, thank you. So looks like next we have an update on CommuteSmart NH from Cam.
All right.
Do you mind if I take this off?
No. You don't mind if I do?
No. Hi, everybody. Can everyone hear me all right?
We hear you fine.
All right. Give me a sec. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So I think most of all of you know me. I'm Cam Prohlman, regional planner here, and I'm going to be talking about CommuteSmart, New Hampshire, specifically CommuteSmart's May Challenge. So during the month of May, you can log any commute to and from work or school except those driven in a car alone. You can do walking, biking, skateboarding, telecommuting, taking the bus, or any combination. The CommuteSmart Challenge is open to any employer in the state of New Hampshire. You form a team with your coworkers and compete against others across the state. So, excuse me, I can't see. Okay, so CommuteSmart is every year there's a challenge, kind of like what I just described, where groups of teams through employers log their trips to and from work. And the ones who have the most amount of commuting, not via a single occupancy vehicle, win. And there are some prizes you can win. But ultimately, the point of this is to save money and increase vehicle life, to increase health and be more productive, to strengthen employee morale, to create more parking and have on-time employees, and to make a statement without a cost. And so this year, the challenge is from May 1 to May 31st. And I'm just going to explain how the challenge actually works. So you can download the app, the CommuteSmart New Hampshire app, or not. You can log on the website. So you register, you pump up your team. The challenge, like I said, is from May 1st to May 31st. You log your trips, you check your standing. We hope that you will share it on social media with the hashtag #SmartCommuteTheRoute, and then you can win. So we want you to talk with your employer and coworkers and form a team, and you'll be competing with other teams and other employers from all around the state, and you can get some cool stuff. You can get some swag, some water bottles, some bags, and also some bragging rights. So there's a lot more information on the CommuteSmart website. To be honest, I thought I would have maybe 5 minutes to do this presentation. But like I said, the CommuteSmart website really holds your hand through the registration process. It's pretty easy. It is fun. I know our office will be participating, and I'd really love to see everyone in this meeting participate as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. I'd be happy to help set you up on the CommuteSmart website, help you register. But yeah, so if anyone has any questions on the CommuteSmart challenge, please let me know. That was all I had for CommuteSmart. I do have one more thing regarding bicycling and walking in our region. So before I move on, does anyone have any questions about CommuteSmart?
I would just note that once in a while I ride my bike to work here at the Planning Commission, and Cam has been giving me the stink eye all week. And so I already know ahead of time I'm going to be stuck riding my bike for the entire month of May. So
James is really going to be holding our office on this challenge. I think, you know, Sylvia lives in Newmarket. I commute from Somerville, Massachusetts, and Nate, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure where he lives. I think in Montreal or something like that, but he has a long commute. So our office probably won't do so good in this challenge. Oh, and also Carl is commuting from Maine some days, but we're going to try as best we can. We're going to utilize Zoom as much as we can. Yeah. So the next thing, so May is the CommuteSmart challenge, and May is also Bike Month. And typically we at the commission do something for Bike to Work Day, which is a day in Bike Month. You know, you'll see us down in downtown Manchester, sipping on some coffee provided by Cafe Lorraine or another local business. And, you know, we'll set up a demonstration and talk bike infrastructure with people. But this year we're doing something a little different. We've been partnering and communicating with local trail groups, municipal staff, and local businesses to promote our region's rail trails. So pack your bags, grease your chains, and put in your walking shoes, because we are rolling out a rail trail passport. This is just a preview of our passport, but ultimately the idea is we're asking folks to check out the region's rail trails. So rail trails in Derry, Goffstown, Hooksett, Londonderry, Manchester, New Boston, or Wyndham. And some of these are just trails that may not be rail trails. But the idea is you'll have this passport that we're providing to different communities and groups. And then you'll go to a local business who's situated on or near a rail trail, and they will be stamping your passport. So we still have a little bit of groundwork to do, but we're almost there. We're pretty excited about this. So we're asking to please keep an eye out on our website and on our Facebook page, and probably some media or a newsletter blast that we'll be sending out in the future too. But we're excited about this. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them as best I can. But that is all for me.
Thanks, Cam. Does anyone have any questions for Cam?
Just so everyone knows, this is really exciting. We know that ever since the pandemic, there are a lot of people who want to get out, they want to walk. You know, they just are cooped up, and just doing that sort of local walking, biking is very popular. And so we're real excited to work with our communities, to work with local businesses in our communities. It's all about bragging rights. And also, if you are really loving this idea with the passport, turns out Rockingham Planning Commission has linked with Stratford, and they're also doing a passport book. So if you get crazy about it and want to do this throughout the summer, the state has their own program, and you can get a patch, a little one of those cute fabric patches, if you do all the rail trails in the whole state. So get on your walking shoes, get your bike, and have fun with this. This is going to be really fun. We all need fun. I'm sick of stress. I just want fun now. I only want to talk about fun things. I never want to hear the word COVID again. Oh my God. So, but this has been fun contacting just the towns. And when they hear you don't have to give us any money. You don't have to do anything. This is about fun. Everybody wants to talk about fun. So these communities, all your rectors were so excited about talking about fun projects and this passport idea. George, in Derry, your person over in the rec department was crazy, just so happy to talk about something fun. In New Boston, of course, Mike Sindoni is like one of the most fun people you could meet. So they're all really excited about this. So spread the word.
I would,
It's a great idea. I love it.
I'm just gonna add a link in the chat box to the rail trail challenge that the State Rail Trail Coalition has put together. And I would note that I just recently became a member over there. This is not a pitch, but I recently became a member over there for $20, and they sent me this really nice, like 300-page book detailing it with an in-depth detailed description of every rail trail in the state. So if you do get out on a bike and you're not certain of the condition of certain trails, you can get this book for cheap money right now if you're inclined to become a member of the coalition.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Any questions? Don't tell me we've got a half an hour. That's crazy.
Play tic-tac-toe.
Does anyone have any other business that we need to cover, or are we ready to adjourn?
Well, before we even say the word adjourn, which I know everyone is already jumping on their mouse pad to hit leave meeting. One thing that we don't get a chance to ask you a lot about are what are some topics that you would like us to cover? If there are specific topics, and there are so many regarding transportation, anything come to mind?
I think you got to look more at the connection between your side of the river and our side of the river. There's a lot of stuff going over there, and I had an opportunity to sit down with Mr. Haddock there in Chester, and I learned an awful lot of stuff. So going in this direction, and then the question that comes to mind is Raymond has the economic development stuff. How is that all going to work together? There's so many things that in my mind are not really clear as to what all of that stuff does. Zach has given me some good information on rail trails, and there's this huge gap between Hooksett and Candia to pick up the rail trail. What's going to happen there, and the development that's taking place in Candia? They're selling houses in Candia $475,000, and they're going in a day with multiple people. That's going to have a significant impact on what happens.
Okay. Anybody else? Andrew, any thoughts with that?
Well, Sylvia, yeah, like Dick said, there is the Sanchester development coming in, which is going to be a development of regional impact, pretty large one. So I know Chester's going to want to pull you in like we did on the Crawley Woods subdivision that was going into Candia. This is a big one. It's already well underway in Chester. I mean, in Sandown. And they're going to be building a major road through Sandown into Chester, and it's definitely going to impact our intersection in the center of town, and there's going to be a lot of growth.
Okay, okay. Any other ideas of topics that you are interested in? Autonomous vehicles, electric cars, plug-in areas, other trail, sidewalks.
I'm curious, just not personally, but I'm curious because I keep receiving questions about you know, the that new what is it, the G5 infrastructure that's being rolled out. Sorry, having a moment here, but you know, it's related to our cell phones.
5G,
here.
5G.
5G, there we go. Thank you. And does anybody know what's, you know, can we get an update on what's being proposed in our RPC, you know, across that area?
I think we need to talk to Chris Pappas. Chris Pappas is on the infrastructure down in Washington. I think we need to somehow get him to do a presentation about what the effect's going to be, not only in rails and roads, but what's going to happen with the water.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I would second what Dick just said. And if Congress is going to redefine what is infrastructure, I think that might be valuable for that to be shared with a small rural area like New Hampshire.
One thing that comes to mind as you're chatting, I believe it will be in May, that we have Eric Zimmerman from the National Association of Regional Councils. Is that right? NARC. Will be coming to speak to our MPO. That's a public meeting. Anyone can jump in. Dick and Andrew, you're already invited as your commissioners, as is Mark. But that's, I imagine he will be talking a little bit about infrastructure and national projects.
James, Mark and I have had discussions about freight distribution.
We know the airport is growing significantly right now with increased freight traffic, and that's going to start to change the patterns, the travel patterns. But we don't know a lot about how it's changing. We just know it's changing. So
We know, Zach, you're on here. I wonder if you might, I don't see Carl though, but Zach is, and Carl and Zach have been adding to our CMP and looking at freight. I wonder if you might add just a little bit on what that focus is.
Sure. So we are doing some freight analysis, looking at corridors that were highlighted by New Hampshire DOT as critical freight corridors. So we're looking at truck congestion on those corridors 3 times a day, morning, midday, and evening, and providing, first of all, calling out what is possible causes, and then particular engineering and policy solutions that could be implemented.
Yeah,
sorry, Carl, I didn't see you in the background.
No, yeah, I was behind Cam, sorry. Yeah, just to add, thanks, Zach. Basically sums it up. This is, freight is a new emphasis area. When I say new, last few years by Federal Highway, and the CMP, looked at all modes, and now we're like Zach said, focused on truck movement. But the thing that's important about this freight analysis we're doing is that it's an expansion from the congestion management network. It looks at the congestion management network, but that is a subset of all state and local roads. And now we're looking at places that were identified by DOT and us as critical freight corridors or links and networks. And so
it has some additional areas, and again, specifically on truck movement. So it includes the airport area that we've already talked about. So, and I had already mentioned to staff here that it'd be timely to do a presentation on that, probably in May, June, July.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
I'd just add, maybe in the shameless plug category, April 27th is our next MPO meeting. And for those of you who are interested in rail related topics, we're going to have a briefing from Patrick Herlihy, who is works in the commissioner's office at New Hampshire DOT. He's the state director of aeronautics, rail and transit. He'll be giving some updates about the Capital Corridor project, the rail project that's now in what's called the project development phase. So the engineering work that's going on right now for the Capital Corridor, as well as some other topical issues. He may touch on Pan Am's proposed sale to CSX, and he may touch on Amtrak's recent intercity proposal that's been announced to come with intercity rail as far north as Concord. So it'll be great to hear from Patrick on the 27th. So if anybody's interested in that, feel free to join that April 27th meeting at 11:30 in the morning.
Okay, well, that was a good conversation. Thanks. Any other project the staff would like to talk about and share on what's coming up in future?
I don't know if, I think we were going to bring this up at the MPO, but since we have a little time, I'll mention it real quick here is staff has been working on developing a dashboard of metrics of our public engagement and public participation. And one of the strategies we're looking to implement to increase participation is to expand the forums in which we notice meetings, MPO meetings and TAG meetings. And so we're exploring exploring the idea of posting digitally on media platforms such as Facebook, and Twitter and Eventbrite, upcoming meetings, MPO and TAC meetings, so that the general audience, the general public, is aware of these topics, discussions, and these meetings.
And also for the members, I know that Dick, we've talked about this from time to time, and I hope Monique is still here. Good. One of the things we've done is we are looking at these meetings, we're recording them, we're putting them on YouTube, and we're adding timestamps to the different presentations. So let's say you want to go back and look at Cam's presentation on CommuteSmart. You can get the link from our website. It'll bring you to YouTube, and there's a drop-down menu for the agenda. You can just click on the part of the agenda you're interested in, and the YouTube will go exactly to that part of the presentation. It's very cool. And Monique has created, or is in the midst of creating, a quick little video on how to do that. So that will also be on our website.
Sylvia, could you have somebody drop the recording of this meeting on my Dropbox?
Okay.
One better, we can send you a link, Dick.
Yeah. Adam, if you can take care of that for Dick, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I guess
If there's nothing else, do we need a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thanks, George.
I'll
Any
do the
second?
second from New Boston.
Thanks, Mark. All right, we just need thumbs up all the way around. All right.
Good.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.